Hey guys, and welcome to our full review of Five Nights at Freddy's 4. So, play this game on the channel a little bit, and if you've been here since the beginning of FNAF 4, you might know, and also I guess you could have seen the short as well because we made a short about it. You might know that this game holds a special place in Zachary's heart.
No, it doesn't.
And his wallet. Yeah, we're gonna get into this review. So we're gonna start off with the game company/creator. Similar to all the main FNAF games, Scott Cawthon was at the helm with this one. He once we get to like VR, that's when he starts to, and we haven't even done VR yet. So that's when he like kind of teamed up with Steelwall. So, but right now FNAF 4 was just him. So not much to say about him because he's that well known. But he's Scott Cawthon's made all the previous FNAF games. He's made a bunch of other different games like Chipper and Sons Lumber Company. We haven't played that or anything, but I'm just highlighting the other types of games he plays. He specializes in horror games, obviously, and yeah. So not much to say about him. Moving on to what is done well. There's a lot of things done well in this game. First of all, this came after FNAF 3, which we already reviewed, which you guys have already seen, hopefully. If you haven't, go watch it. So this came off the cups of FNAF 3, and FNAF 3 to me was dreadful. And so this game, first of all, going into it, I wasn't expecting much because of FNAF 3. Like, FNAF 3 literally made me kind of disappointed. Not disappointed for this one, but like sort of made my expectations lower than I would have been otherwise. So... and also the trailer, because I think this was the second one to have a trailer. Because FNAF 2, FNAF 2, I guess did, but it wasn't like a super like creepy trailer one. Because FNAF 2 wasn't scary, in terms of the trailer. It was kind of like, oh, that's cool. Oh, there's toy animatronics. That's neat. This one though, like actively scared pretty much everyone who watched it because the trailer was actually pretty terrifying. Yeah, so the first of all, we're gonna get to graphics later, but the graphics are, I think he did way better with the graphics on this one. The models of the animatronics are way cooler and way scarier. It helps to have like all the nightmare sheets, because remember this is Nightmare. So like this is the child in in terms of the lore anyway. The child's like dying in the hospital or whatever. So it's all like nightmare fuel stuff. So it helps to have like the extra set of teeth. I believe even. I think it's Chica that has like 3 different rows. It's really terrifying. But yeah, so the model's really well done. And then in terms of the actual game, in terms of the like game mechanics, that's really well done as well. There's a lot of stuff like the closet mechanic, which I believe this game doesn't really tell you about the closet. If I recall, the tutorial tells you about the doors, and it tells you, I think if you go to the closet, it tells you like, hey, something might be in here. But you don't, because Foxy doesn't start on night 1, or sometimes it doesn't even start on night 2. So really, you don't really get an inclination that something would be in the closet until Foxy does inevitably spawn. So, and also Foxy's little jump scare when he's like about to murder you if you go near the closet is also pretty funny. This was the first game to really nail down the lore type of like the game, because FNAF 3 had some lore in it too, and so did FNAF 1. But this is where they kind of really nailed down the fact, like, oh, there's more to the story than it seems.
Yeah, it really went ham on the lore.
So yeah, and then in terms of the nights were really cool, and the entire gimmick of this game is awesome, because the gimmick of the game is that if you hear breathing, you have to shut the door, and in order to hear breathing, you have to be quiet and or have the volume way up. And so that creates a perfect storm for you to get completely thrown out of your chair by a jump scare. And based on the people that I've watched play this game, I've watched a couple of people play this game, and obviously we play the game as well, that once you're listening for the breathing, it's a super tense moment, because like you're sitting there for a couple of seconds and be like, wait, is that breathing in here or is that not breathing? And then it's even more tense when you're at the one playing the game and you're about to press the button to shine the light and hope that there's no one there. It's even more tense there. So yeah, the actual like gimmick of the game is, I think, the best gimmick out of all 4 games so far in terms of the main 4. Because like FNAF 1 was just shut the doors, which is kind of like formulaic at this point with all the FNAF fan games out there. FNAF 2 with put on the mask, it was cool, but I still think that this is the best gimmick in terms of the main 4. Because again, Scissor Location kind of changes the entire formula in general. Yeah, so that's really well done as well. The kind of minigame sections once you beat the night. So there's actually 2 minigames technically, if you want to count one of them as a minigame. The first, like, quote-unquote minigame is where it's like 2 days before the party or whatever. It's like that section where you play as the kid and you go through all those different things depending on the night you beat. And then you have the actual minigame of the night, which I think is a really clever idea, which is the plush trap minigame. And the plush trap minigame essentially is if you get them on the X, then you get to skip 2 hours in the night in the next night you go to. Keep in mind though that this comes with a downside of that the animatronics start at 2 a.m. as well. So they won't obviously spawn at the door because that'd be really stupid. But they spawn with like the aggression they would have on 2 a.m. So like don't just expect to sit there and be like, oh well they don't come for another hour or so, so I'm fine, because that's not how that's gonna work. So that's really cool though, and if you fail, nothing happens. You just get jump scared, I guess. I guess your failure condition is fear, because you'll get jump scared. But yeah, so then that was a really cool gimmick, and that was really confusing when I first saw it, because I'm like, oh, what am I doing here? Because I thought if I had lost that, I'd have to restart the entire night, that'd be kind of sad. In terms of the replayability, which we're going to get to later, but there's a lot of stuff that you can do after you beat the first 5 nights. There's, of course, a 6th night, which I believe the 6th night it's everyone until 4, right? And
yeah,
then
everyone until 4,
then Fredbear Nightmare Fredbear comes in. Which Nightmare Fredbear is also really cool because he just straight up jukes you. And it takes, like, listening to the whole nother level because you have to kind of follow where he's going. And when he laughs, the laughing is the most confusing part. I would say once we get to what could be proved, I say the laughing was really kind of not explained very well. But in terms of what's done well, though, is that I think Fredbear himself is kind of cool, just because of how you have to kind of track him.
Yeah, I will say, though, as an added note, that's another reason that playing on console is not a good decision, because it's crucial to be able to hear both sides, because his movements will go from left to right if you have headphones, or right to left. But with console, you can't do that. So,
unless you have a binaural TV.
Yeah, but if you don't, and you're playing a console, you really just have to have a good memory, or you're screwed for him.
And also, another thing this game did well is that it doesn't take place in a pizzeria. The other 3, I mean, you can make an excuse that 3 is in a fake pizzeria, but the other 3 took place in a pizzeria-style area. This one was in your house, which adds a layer of fear as like, oh crap, now I'm gonna have nightmares of these things stalking me. Obviously, which won't happen. Which AR kind of helped that idea as well, but that was way down the line. Yeah, I think that's the setting of this is super well done. The grandfather clock, the random noises that are played. We'll get to the sound and stuff later as well. But yeah, just not to go on for too long, but there's a lot of stuff well done. And I'm sure I'm missing stuff as well, but there's a lot of really good things in this game. But moving on to what could be improved. I'm gonna reiterate this. I think the laughing of both Nightmare and Nightmare Fredbear are a bit confusing. It's kind of hard to tell if it was a real laugh or fake laugh. The only real way to tell if it was a fake laugh is if he laughs and then you hear movement afterwards, because that means he was still in the hallways moving around. But sometimes he'll camp a door and laugh anyway, and then you don't know, and you have to check stuff anyway. A lot of my deaths, personally, I can't speak for everybody, but a lot of my deaths, and what I've seen with other people as well, is that they'll die because he fake laughed and he just camped a door, and people assumed, oh, that must be a real laugh, and they go to check the closet or the bed where he could be, and because you don't get a lot of time to deal with him, he just kills you. And Nightmare even gives you less time than him, so yeah, I would say the laughing mechanic is a little not explained very well. I think if it was just explained more, then it would have been a lot probably simpler and a lot much better mechanic to deal with. But because it doesn't explain it to you at all, you kind of have to just guess. It's kind of annoying. So I think that could have been improved. I will say when I got ported to console, I don't think you can do 420 because you had to input a series of numbers into the keyboard. I think it was 20 20 20 20.
Correct.
And you can't do that on console because you can. Nope. There's no 20 to type in. So that is an oversight, I noticed. Because there's also, you would think if they did that, oh, well, then they must have had a separate thing for it. I looked it up and I couldn't find it. So unless it got updated recently, because I guess technically it could have, I'm going to assume it didn't though, then that was a huge oversight. Because 420 is kind of like the whole gimmick of this game. It's like, oh, once you beat the main knights, here's the hardest mode in the game. So it's kind of sad that was an oversight. But I play this game first on computer, which is how most people should play these games anyway. And you could do that. So yeah, you have 420 once you beat Night 6. You have Nightmare mode, which is, I think it's just Nightmare the entire time. Or no, it's everyone on like 15 or whatever.
Yeah, everyone on really high difficulty until 4, then Nightmare.
And then Nightmare comes in. Yeah, either way, but yeah, so you have that one as well. I believe there's 9 nights if you really want to count them.
Yeah,
So
what's the 9th one again?
the 9th one is if you do Nightmare plus the it's 420 plus Nightmare. So essentially, it's all of them on 20. And then Nightmare Fredbear comes in at 4, and then Nightmare switches with them at 5. So it's like it's an all-star show. You're dealing with everybody, but everyone's on 20. So it's like it doesn't show as night 9. It still says night 8 because you're still in the custom menu, but it's a different night. So it's to me that it's kind of marked. The community kind of marked that as night 9. So yeah, I think it's the game that has the most nights in it, if you really want to count it. Because again, Central Location just has 5. Pizzeria Sim that's a week, so
that's 7.
7.
Wait, not even, because Sunday isn't a day. So
oh right,
6.
so 6, which makes sense because it's FNAF 6.
Yeah.
And then I'm not obviously gonna count VR and Security Breach because that's all. Security Breach is 1 night anyway. But yeah, so it has the most nights in terms of all the main games, I'll say. And I like that because I like more content. I like the different challenges in this one. Yeah, in terms of what can be improved, they majorly oversighted 420 for consoles. I guess the child moves a little slow in the whole like, oh, this is the last thing. I feel like just bumping his speed up just a little bit wouldn't have been an issue. And it probably would have made the game a bit more playable in terms of that part of it. I also wish that the plush trap thing was harder because it's really not on PC anyway. On console it's harder to listen. On PC though, the plush trap guy is a joke because he's super easy. And you know, I could just be good at him, but I would doubt it because you know I'm not good at. FNAF 4 I love a lot, but I'm not great at it. So if I can say that that's really easy, then I feel like a lot of other people that are actually good at this game can say that too. So I think he's a little easy. And then, yeah, I also forgot that this was the first game to have, I'm not going to call it DLC. It was basically free DLC, I guess. It was the Halloween update, which introduced Jacko, Bonnie, Jacko, Chica, which were just skins, but it really introduced Nightmarionette, Nightmarionette, whatever you want to call him. Nightmarionette is technically the name. And then Nightmare Mangle as well. And Nightmare Balloon Boy. Nightmare Balloon Boy was in place of Plush Trap for the minigame, which that was fun because there was balloons everywhere, if I recall. And it was harder to see them. So, yeah, that was cool. They introduced 3 new characters. That was pretty cool as well. So I think there's really not much to say about what can be improved, because aside from the things I've already said. So moving on to any problems or glitches. Again, similar to the other ones, I think when it first came out there might have been a couple, but in the final state right now, I don't believe there's any game-breaking bugs or anything that's worth noting, because I don't think there is. But moving on to controls. So this will differ depending on the console you're on, but again, I want to reiterate that playing FNAF games on console is probably a mistake, because it's really hard to, like I mentioned earlier, it's hard to listen. It's way harder to listen to where people are going, and this game relies heavily on sound, so even more so than FNAF 1, 2, and 3. So it's going to be hard to do that. You have weird button controls, like the button mapping is kind of weird. I don't even think you can change them either. So yeah, that's really strange. I think the best way to play these games is on PC. And if you do that, then that means that... So this game introduced WSD because of the character in the game. Like I said, the 2 days left before the party, you have to use WSD or the arrow keys maybe? I can't remember which one it was. You can use both, but... and then it's just point and click. During the actual night, it's just point and click, and I think you use a spacebar for your flashlight or something. Not many controls, though. It kind of tells you straight up. But if you're on console, you use pretty much every button to do everything, and it's kind of a jumbled mess.
Dumb.
If I recall, it was like ZR to turn behind you, like that always got me confused. So, yeah, if you want to play this game and get the full experience, do it on PC. Do not do it on console. But moving on to graphics. The graphics of the game are really cool, and I mean, obviously it's kind of dark all the time for the majority of the game. But when it kind of does look like a real life house. That's what, like I said, that's what makes it look really creepy, and that's kind of what instills an extra layer of fear in you, because it's like, oh, that looks like an actual house, instead of just like, oh, this looks like a made-up pizzeria. Because like if it's a made-up pizzeria, you don't have that layer of fear of like, oh, this looks like real life. Like that's kind of terrifying. So, but because this one was just like a house, and you haven't been to every single house, so you don't. This could totally be an actual house. And it kind of added the mystery of like the extra layers of the house, because during the day you actually get to walk around the house and sort of see sort of the ways to go, because you don't see like a kitchen, you only see like the sister's room and like the living room and stuff like that. So you see parts of the house. But yeah, but in terms of graphics, it's really cool. And like I said, I mentioned earlier, the designs of the characters, I think, are some of the best designs in the franchise itself, because they look really creepy and really cool. So yeah, I think my favorite design would probably be Nightmare Yon with his like weird like tentacle army is kind of creepy. I would also say that the cupcake is terrifying. The fact that a robot cupcake is coming after you. Which, by the way, after all this time, I finally figured out what the cupcake does. Essentially, if Chica's at the door and you ignore her, if Chica's at the door and you close the door, but you don't shine your light afterwards, that's when the cupcake will come kill you.
Oh, wow.
Bonnie, there's no problem with Bonnie. Once Bonnie leaves, you're good to just you don't have to worry about the light. I guess he might come back faster if you don't, but either way, it's not important. But yeah, the graphics are really well done in this game. Moving on to music/sound. So it's mostly sound, just like the other FNAF games, but the sound is really well done because, again, this game relies on sound, so that by proxy the sound in the game has to be good. And there's random grandfather chimes that happen, there's random dogs that bark, there's random cars that you can hear in the thing. So all the different added sound effects you might not be hearing because you're too busy panicking because you realize you're about to die. That was really well done as well. The jump scare sounds really good. I think they all have the same jump scare up until you get to Nightmare and like Plush Trap, and like there's a couple that have a couple of different ones, but I think the core 4 have the same jump scare sound. But it's really cool. And then in terms of music, I think there's the menu music, which is really iconic actually, because they use it in FNAF VR during the Halloween update thing. So like that's a really cool track. I think there's the Happiest Day music, if I recall. It's like a couple of notes on a piano, but it's still pretty cool. Is there any like other major tracks? I guess maybe there was for the end of the game.
Yeah, like
didn't it just end though with him getting crunched? There wasn't music there.
After the 6th night, there was like that moment.
Oh yeah, like I'll put you back together. Yeah, that's a good song, whatever that was. So there's sparse music tracks, but the ones that are there are pretty good, and I believe Scott made them himself. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure. So yeah, really well done in terms of music and sound. Moving on to story and characters. So the story of this game is that you are a crying child, is his name, and you've been murdered. Can't believe it. So it kind of showcases that was that the Bite of 87? No, Mark, it wasn't. It was the Bite of 83.
88.
The Bite of 87 kind of got retconned, I guess, because it kind of got removed from the story a little bit. So it's the Bite of 83, and you kind of go through the motions of like, oh, this is your birthday party. What are you doing, you silly goober? You're crying. What are you doing? So like that's kind of the synopsis of the story. And during the night, you're kind of playing the nightmare of what the kid's having because he's dead. And so once you beat Net 6, you essentially get there's not 2 endings here. There's just the normal one. But once, like Zach said earlier, once you beat Net 6, you get the Fredbear talking and be like, "I'll put you back together" or whatever. Which has like strung a whole different series of theories in terms of modern day now. So yeah, and obviously that moment has also come up in recent games as well. So yeah, that's the kind of the story. In terms of characters, you have the core 4: Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. All Nightmare variants now. You have the Cupcake I mentioned earlier, who's like with Chica on her side of the house. You have Plush Trap, who's essentially like a side character basically. He's kind of like like I said, you play him once you're in the middle of 2 nights. You have Mangle, but you have the Nightmare, like the DLC characters. You have Mangle, Nightmare Yon, Nightmare Balloon Boy. Is there anyone I'm missing? Oh, Nightmare Fred. Well, I said Nightmare before. I think I'm missing anyone. In terms of like the actual night, you have Nightmare, Fredbear, and Nightmare. And then during the actual during the daytime, you have like the kid, you have like the brother, the friends, and then Psychic Friend Fredbear. And so anyone that gets that reference. So yeah, there's a good amount of characters, and like obviously the characters you really care about though are going to be the animatronics. But I'm pretty sure I'm not missing anyone. If I am, I'm gonna be upset later. We're moving on to replayability. So replayability, I'm gonna put this somewhere like at the beginning, the middle section, which is the middle section is kind of sort of like where a lot of games fit. Where once you beat the core game, there's gonna be stuff after that. FNAF 3 did not fit into that because it was like once you beat Nightmare Mode, it was basically over. Because Nightmare Mode was basically the Night 6 anyway. So yeah, that just wasn't. We put that in like the linear section because once you beat FNAF 3, you kind of never really need to return to it.
Pretty much.
This game though, like I said, has up to 9 nights. So if you want to do every challenge, and that includes because the separate challenges themselves don't count towards nights, so that doesn't include the challenges that you can do, which is like blind mode, which is crazy. But I guess you're mostly reliant on sound anyway. And then like what's the other ones? You have I know the cheats. You have like the cheats are like radar, fast nights, and then
unlimited. Wait, no.
Fast nights. There is a third one. I forgot what it is.
Third one. It's...
Either way, there's also 3 challenges.
Wait, house map.
I said radar already.
Yeah, I was
Either way, there's 3 challenges and 3 cheats. So if you want to cheat the game, if you want to just mess around, that's kind of fun. The challenges, again, I don't recall all of them. I know there's blind mode. There is... Yeah, again, I can't for the life of me remember what the other 2 were. But the Nightmare I think is in the list somewhere. But either way, there's the core 3 there. So yeah, that's really cool. So once you beat Night 6, you have all those options available to you. And again, if you're on PC, if you put in 2020, you can unlock 420 mode. If you're on console, I'm sorry, they apparently admitted that for you. So you don't even get to try that one. And so unlike FNAF 2, there's not like a set custom night thing. So kind of like FNAF 3, I think that's like one thing this game could have done better, is having like an actual custom night. Because that would have been cool. But they give you a lot to work with, so it's fine. Yeah, and then in the extras menu, you can play Fun with Plush Trap or Fun with Balloon Play as much as you want. So there's a lot of replayability with this game. So I'm going to put it just in the middle section where a lot of games go. Because it's definitely not like Minecraft where it's unlimited. You'll like always find new stuff. Because they'll get formulaic after a while. Yeah, moving on to personal takes though. So personal take for me is that this game is one of the best in the series alongside FNAF 2. We haven't like done as far as I'm aware, we haven't done like a ranking or anything, but I would say if we were, FNAF 4 and 2 would both be an S tier for me. They are both very well designed games. The fact that FNAF 4 came after FNAF 3 was a huge leap because FNAF 3 was garbage to me. And FNAF 4 rose the stakes once again. So yeah, I think FNAF 4 to me was a great game. But we'll move on to Zachary.
Yeah, I know that about the notorious moment that I have with this game in the series, but what I will say is that this game was definitely one of the best of the entire series. It was just such a drastic change, I think, because, you know, Scott Cawthon at this point was just doing the same thing, like, oh yeah, pizzeria, a bigger pizzeria, attraction with one animatronic, not really scary. And then people are like, oh, it's not that scary, no, whatever that. And then they come out, BAM! FNAF 4, scariest thing ever, and that you're in a house, which is dead different from what you've been doing. There's lore, like, he went crazy on this one. I'll tell you what, out of the 4, the FNAF 4 maybe probably the best of the one. That or 2. FNAF 2 or 4 is probably the best. But this game was definitely... It was... now, scary, yes, very much so. Am I a chicken? Maybe. But good.
The answer to that is yes. Yeah, I was gonna say, for its extra calling to that moment, if anything, that proves how scary the game actually was, because he literally paid me off to make him not play it.
$50, by the way, that wasn't...
So...
Yeah, $50
that wasn't a little.
Well, yeah, because you said 20. I'm like, I don't give a crap about 20 bucks. Anyway, Isabel, personal take.
Alright, so I definitely really liked how FNAF 4 was, like, designed, because it's totally different from the first 3 games and how they were made. This one, you're dealing with something that's like 10 times more realistic than what you've been dealing with, and I really think that's cool. And how there were more basically more things out of with like the plush trap mini game. You get to see more of the lore. The only thing about this game is that I just don't. It's for me. It's just a personal thing because I don't have as much experience with this game as terms of like playing it than like something like FNAF 2. But I'm going to put bias aside and say that this game was really well done and I'm really impressed by it.
All right, so moving on to is it worth it? So all the first I think 5 games are all $8. And based on what I've seen from Steam, I can't speak for the consoles, but based on what I've seen on Steam, they don't go on sale very often. Even during like Christmas sales, they rarely go on sale. So majority of the time, it's going to be $8 for you. And I would say if you haven't played the game, absolutely 100% worth it. 1,000,000%. If you want to get the pants scared off you, play FNAF 4. It's great. If you have bought it before and you want to play it again, then yes, it's also worth it to you. I would say in 99% of situations it's worth it. The only scenario where this wouldn't be worth it is if you're a baby and can't handle jump scares, because then you might die.
Or console.
Or if you're, well, I guess console. I'm talking about Steam here because I don't know what the price would be on console. But either way, so yeah, if you can't handle jump scares, like putting jokes aside, I'm not calling you guys babies, but if you can't handle like really scary games, like you suffer from sort of illness that would hinder it, or like other stuff like that, or you just don't like horror games, then I would say it's probably not. But if you're a horror game person and you like being scared, then FNAF 4 100% is worth it. But moving on to final rating out of 10. So we gave FNAF 2 an 8, and we gave FNAF 1 an 8. Well, no, we gave FNAF 1 an 8. I can't remember what we gave FNAF 2.
I think FNAF 2 was... no, FNAF 1 I think was a low 8. I think FNAF 2 was a high
8, right?
Yeah.
And then FNAF 3...
Yeah,
Like
FNAF 3 was a 3.
3.
FNAF 4, though, is, I think, again, one of the better games in the entire series. Because remember, the games in the series right now is FNAF 1 all the way to Security Breach. And to me, I think this beats out like a majority of the one. I think it beats out 1, definitely beats out 3, beats out 5, 6. To me, beats out VR even.
Dang.
Security Breach, I think it beats out. So I think a lot of the time it beats out. It's beating a lot of them. So I'm gonna give it a very, very low 9. It's still a 9, but I'm going to give it a very low 9 just because I think there's a couple things that could have made the game a little bit better. And also, when we give something a 9, it has to be like, it's revolutionary almost, right? This game was revolutionary in the sense that this is where a lot of YouTubers started actually playing the game. Because, if you recall, like, a lot of small, quote-unquote, small YouTubers played FNAF 1, started to gain some traction, people played FNAF 2, started to gain some more traction, it dipped when FNAF 3 came out because a lot of other people thought FNAF 3 was also not that great. And then once, because Scott did a lot of teasing and a lot of sort of secrets with FNAF 4 to keep people on their seats and stuff, so it kind of raised the awareness of FNAF 4, and once FNAF 4 came out, PewDiePie played it, Jack played it, Mark played it, Corey Kincher played it. Literally the 5 FNAF guys, I'll say, like all played it, which boosted its popularity. So it was very kind of revolutionary when this came out. And again, it's so revolutionary that there's so many references to FNAF 4 in terms of the lore of current games, in terms of like just straight up Easter eggs in current games. Like that's how revolutionary this was. Like that Security Breach had like so many different references to FNAF 4 in terms of like the artifacts. Like you could find this phone or the phone thing on the ground. The purple fan, that's where that kind of started, is the fan.
Frickin' fan!
So like that, so it started memes, it started the lore, it started a bunch of all these things that has made, to me, what has made the FNAF series what it is today. So I'm gonna give it a 9. I think it's well deserving a 9. And if I were to give it a high 8, it'd just be in the same boat as FNAF 2, which I think FNAF 2, the one thing that has going for it is that it has custom night. If FNAF 4 had a custom night, I'd say either middle road 9 or high 9. But it unfortunately doesn't have that. So again, there's a couple things I would say that could be better with FNAF 4, but majority of the time I think it beats a lot of the other FNAF games in the series in general. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna give it. So Zachary.
Yeah. Now my FNAF timeline I think is a little messed up, but there was a point I think where FNAF was almost considered dead, and I think it was after 3. Just because of how trash it was compared to the other two, I believe. And I think 4 kind of revived it a little bit. It kind of got people more like hyped up for it and actually got them back into liking it, because the 4th one just kind of redeemed it a bit, I think. I'm pretty sure that's how that timeline went. But besides that as well, this game, I guarantee you right now, if FNAF 4 didn't exist, we wouldn't have the FNAF lore that we have today. Guarantee you. The FNAF 4 really, really kickstarted the lore of FNAF. Now, as messy as it is, it's still the lore. It's still the FNAF lore, and 4 pretty much started it up for us. You know, the other ones had lore too, but this game really, really hammered it in. Like, oh wow. Like, there's Replayability 3, you got, you know, the house, everything, pretty much. A lot of it came from FNAF 4. So if that's not revolutionary to the series itself, I don't really know what is. So yeah, I'd say a lower 9, yeah, but
Like, I think DDLC, in terms of awareness and in terms of revolutionary, that beats it. That's why we gave, like, DLC a high 9.
yeah, that was fine. Yeah,
So that's why we say we don't do points, because I think points are irrelevant. Like 9.1, like, that's stupid. So we don't do that purely because of like that. Like, I think it's dumb, and also every other like review site does that. So we want to be a little different. So that's why when we say low 9, we're not giving it a specific point. So it could be, but we'll give you reference points to understand where we're kind of sitting at. Where in terms of the other games we reviewed, at this point we reviewed a good amount of games. We're trying to catch up to where we currently are. But yeah, so essentially, like, to add on to what Zach's saying as well, is that when the game came out, I don't think this was the dead period, but I get what he's saying. FNAF 3 did sink it a little bit. The dead period, I believe, came after FNAF 5. But
yeah, I think it was like FNAF World or something. I think that really kind of killed it.
well, to some people, sure. But in terms of the series itself, FNAF sort of died off a little bit after 5, when 5 came out.
Yeah.
Because remember, FNAF World came after FNAF 4. Because 5 came after that.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Either way, point is though, is that this game was revolutionary in the sense that the lore, right? Zach was talking about that earlier. Like, sure, you can say what you want about the lore, whether it's messy or not, but the games that have come out were dependent on the lore. Security Breach might not have happened. FNAF VR might not have happened. Like, you have to consider, like, all these things. Like, if FNAF 4 wasn't as good as it is, that might have been the end of the series, because it was called the final chapter. That's what the initial stage was, and that's because Scott thought it was a good thing to end on, which I think it could have been. The thing was, though, if this game was also garbage, like FNAF 3 was, who knows what would have happened. So
yeah, just think about that for 1 second. This was supposed to be the last game of the series, and it came out on July 23rd, 2015. This series would have been over 9 years ago.
Yep, pretty much.
That's insane to me. I just want to point that out.
But Isabel.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna like agree with the 9, since it was basically revolutionary with like the lore and the different mechanics by it. I was definitely impressed by all of it. I am gonna also agree with like giving it like a low 9, maybe like borderline 9, but I definitely do think this game deserves to be like in the 9 area.
Yeah, and again, like, it, not only because I was referencing the memes with Matt back, because of course he was the FNAF guy at the time, but like, you have to remember all the different memes that it came from. Like, Markiplier had a bunch of memes in this series. The first night's never usually that bad. It immediately dies. Was that the bite of 87? Like, there's so many memes that came out of this. Again, like, it affected the gaming culture, it affected the memeing culture. Like, it'd be kind of dumb to say that this game, whether you hate this game or not, it's kind of ignorant to say, oh, well, this game wasn't revolutionary at all to anything. It was kind of there. Like, that's not how that works. Like, I would say FNAF 3 did that. FNAF 3 wasn't really that good. But with FNAF 4, like, it affected the meme world, the gaming world, and, like, all this other stuff. And I think it got us where we are today. Now, again, Security Breach was super buggy and stuff. I get people didn't like it, but in terms of the game itself, though, I think FNAF 4 kind of paved the way for all the other games that came after. So I think it sounds like we're giving it a low 9 here. So
Yeah.
Well, that's going to do it for this review. So if you guys, we do custom outros for these, so you'll be able to check out the reviews playlist that we do over there. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys next time.